Here is my honest opinion about World of Warcraft Plunderstorm. So Plunderstorm is the Battle Royale game mode of World of Warcraft, and I feel like I've played enough to give you my opinion, like my full-on opinion about this game mode. Is it going to be something that someone wants to play like day in and day out? Is it going to be grindable? Is it going to be good as is? I'm going to talk about it. But let's talk about the positive things that the people around me and in my community are actually saying about a battle royale mode. First and foremost, this game mode is very easy access. You don't need to have anything going on about World of Warcraft. You don't even need to know anything about World of Warcraft to actually go in. So it's very easy access. It's also like very fun, I would say, from the get-go. You don't need to know too much about the Plunderstorm itself to actually know what's going on. I think also the variety between the PvE and the PvP is also very fun. I also think like there is always a equal playing field between the players. I feel like I always have like a shot, even if he is like level 6, I'm level 5, or sometimes even level 7. It depends on your loot as well. If your loot is very good and you're very good at RNG, for example, you can basically win because of that. But you could also play very strategically. You will play like around levels where you would have raw stats, basically hitting harder, having more HP, healing more with your pot. So all those things are actually very important. And you could also play like that the long con. So you can play like very stealthy. You could actually hide. You don't need to be afraid of an add-on or a nameplate actually popping whenever you're close by. It's actually like as long as you're not seen, you're not going to be like able to be seen kind of thing. So I also like that. I also like the fact that there is a duo queue, also very fun. I like the fact that there is two separate queues, one solo queue and one duo queue, so you're not forced into a duo queue mode. That's also very nice. I also think like the novelty that Blizzard has done for a. Can you say if it's a season 4 patch? It could be a season 4 patch because the season 4 patch will be out in 5 weeks and it will be the same. So it's good that they did that. Although, again, I'm 100% sure they took a lot of assets from previous expansions and from current expansion, and like it was meshed up together. Probably like a last minute idea that came out. Like, what do we need to do for season 4? So that's also good. And as a PvPer, it's actually is one of the events where I say, that season actually revolves around the PvP activity. And that's also cool, I guess. Although it's again PvP, but on another game. You could say that Plunderstorm could be seen as another game completely. It could be like another BattleNet game section, for example. You would have World of Warcraft um, like retail, classic, and then Plunderstorm, and you could just choose between them. It could also be free to play, for example. That all would be my like negative point onto Plunderstorm. So I think I've summed up everything about the positives. I guess it's fast paced and also the gameplay is good. I just think it's again that's also a negative. I think it's like a bit airy where there's so little options and clearly if you want it to be like something that is going to be for the long con, you actually want more abilities or at least a lot more like balancing. There is a clear meta where some abilities are just that much stronger than others. And it's already seen like some abilities are just not used at all, like the poison one, like the attack where you're putting a dot on the enemy. That is like something you can play around, but it's never going to make you win a 1v1, for example. You would have won a 1v1 regardless if you're winning with that. Now let's talk about negatives. I understand the concerns of the community that they got something that they didn't ask for, and it is not PvP. And I'm going to be honest, it is not WoW PvP. It is a introduction at best to WoW PvP, and a first step into the direction of look that is player versus player combat. Um, but it is not like class versus class, spec versus spec kind of deal. It's strategic, but it's still like very surface level. It needs a lot more like work behind it to actually have like it stay as a game mode throughout the months. And now it's like a 3 week deal or a 4 week deal or 5 week deal. Actually, I don't know. I've seen 3 weeks, but I think it will be longer than that. It would be a shame if it's only 3 weeks, because then you would have put so much work into like a 3 week activity, which is quite shameful, but that's my opinion. But I also think that they need to work heavily on it if they really want to have something evergreen out of that. It's something you can spam all day long and still have fun, but guaranteed at one point you will have fatigue because of like the options you don't really have. Like for example, on the BR for Call of Duty, a weapon is a weapon. An AK-47, a M4, or a I don't know, man, a Mosingarat, or whatever weapon you have is not like it can be fun, but the fun parts are like the other things going on. For example, the contracts, for example, the zones that are splitting in three, for example, in Warzone 2. You have also, I don't know, a train passing. You have multiple zones, like bigger zones, so it's way more POVs. You have also some rebirth kind of thing. So if you die, you can always respawn after like 5 seconds, and you have like a 20-second window where you do not want to die because then you have no rebirth. Something like that, for example, or resurgence. And I think like it's not fair to compare those two games because it's literally just an event. But clearly it has some limitations. So I understand the PvP crowd. I'm also a PvP crowd myself, and I feel like yes, it feels a bit dumb that they added something like an event towards PvP, but then they forgot to communicate anything about like the current PvP state, which is the MMR problems, the spec balancing kind of problem. Again, balancing will always be a problem, so I am not really concerned too much about that, but I'm concerned about the amount of changes they do currently, and it's really slowed down, and it's really surface level to the point where the meta doesn't change at all. So what they need to do is actually like push a bit. I do feel like the Preservation Evoker might be coming into the meta because of the 4-set, because of all the buffs, but again, it's not enough. I think they need to really have some communication behind PvP, and this event just shows that there is a ask about PvP. There is a demand for PvP. The only issue is the offer. Is there enough offer to suit the demand? And like everything economics, there is demand and offer. Offer and demand. And if there is no offer and the demand is growing, at one point the demand goes elsewhere and buys other stuff or do other stuff with their time. And that's something you do not want in your game. That's why I'm really not a fan of Guild Wars 2 at the moment, because it's very horizontal. I still like the game, but it doesn't have player attention at all. So it means that you always have a bleeding like audience of players that are just not caring too much about Guild Wars 2 until they have like a little patch where they play like 2 weeks and then they're gone again. But you do want to cater to the crowd that actually wants to play the game and wants to have more, and you want to create more for those players. So the negatives about the Battle Royale mode is there is just not enough powers. I personally think it's a bit too fast. I like the fast-paced combat, I like the fast-paced matches, but I'm going to say that 10 minutes, 15 minutes is really low amount of time for a BR to grow, I would say, in importance in a match. I don't really care too much of actually like losing on like Plunderstorm. I guess it is made for that if you lose, it is what it is. You're just going to start up again and again. But I feel like having like that adrenaline rush of I don't want to die, I want to keep on playing, I want to keep on playing that round and to be going as far as I can and trying to do a top 5, top 2 or top 1. I feel like often the matches are either it's going to be frantic and you're going to lose at the start, or else you're like like PvEing kind of, and you're like gathering as much as you can. At the end, you have like a top 10 where we're fighting, and often not is a fight of chicken pretty much, where you run away until you have a 3-man, you try to jump a 3-man, there is this kind of meta for that. And it's fine that it is what it is, but I feel like that the duration of the match kind of plays into that. What else? I feel like there is, in my opinion, if it was not called World of Warcraft, I think nobody would really actually play that game. That's how I feel. It's really like surface level mini game event, which is probably fine because that's what they wanted for that game. But if they really wanted to keep it for War Within, they actually need to put more effort into the depth about the Battle Royale. Again, Fortnite has multiple things going on, and it is like not something very vertical progression. It's like you lose and it is what it is. You win, it is what it is. Nobody really cares if you're going to do a top 1 on Fortnite, but for some reason people do still play that game. The same for Call of Duty, the same for Naraka Blade Point, the same for multiple BRs like Apex Legends as well. There is a ranked to that. So maybe if they added something like a ranked mode at the end, if they did balancing, they added more spells, it would be a lot more interesting in my eyes. But right now it feels like if it was not World of Warcraft, I probably would not play it. If it was like called Spell Slinger or whatever that name was, where the devs got onto the World of Warcraft team, I feel like I would not play that game. There is no lag issues, so that's a positive as well. I would have thought that it would be laggy, but it is not. So that's a good thing. But I would say that they really need to work on how the combat feels. And I think it's because the auto attacks are all the same kind of for everyone, because it's like this, like you only have a skin for your weapon pretty much, but that's it. I think having like a different weapon would be interesting to play around. I think it would be nice to have like different potions, for example. I think it would be also interesting to have more than 2 offensive spells and more than 2 utility spells. I think at the end, do you want to have like 1v1s being like very long, or do you want it to be very quick and like very quick into finishing the opponent, for example? That's a philosophy kind of thing. If they want to have a crazy TTK, then it is what it is. But right now the TTK is actually very low, so for me it means that there is more skill to it, because you can outplay your enemy. You have time to react if someone jumps on you, which on a lot of games you don't have that. For example, in Warzone, the TTK is very low. If someone jumps on you and he has a good shot on you, often or not, you're going to drop. It just is what it is, and you can maybe like outplay with mobility and movement. But that's mainly because that guy just missed his shot and you heard him or whatever, and you could react on it. But in Plunderstorm, positive, you can actually react onto it, so that's a good thing. I sincerely say to the PvP crowd, but also my crowd, my audience, don't take this event too seriously, and don't think that the devs that worked on Plunderstorm works on Dragonflight, because it is nowhere near the indication of that. They just don't have anything in common except the name, the assets, and that's it. Even the spells are not the same. Even just like simple like stuff, like for example Snowdrift from Plunderstorm is not the same as Snowdrift from Frost Mages. So I think in general you should not think that, and you should, like, again, if you don't like the game mode, just don't play it. And you could give feedback on the forums, you could give feedback on Reddit, on Twitter, but the thing is, don't mistake feedback, like real good feedback, to like plain criticism which has no value. I'm going to say, like, saying that the game mode just sucks is not enough. You're not going to help them at all. They're not even going to remove the game mode, because they're going to disregard a criticism, because that is like saying red is a silly color, for example. It's really just preference. So again, try to have a fair critique, which means that you kind of have to play before you actually can talk about that. But also, just in general, understand it is still an event. It will be gone in 3 weeks. It's kind of lucky that we got an event that has something PvP to it. To be honest, I had zero expectations for season 4, but also in general, you have seen Dragonflight, all the .x patches had something PvE open world to it. So I was expecting something like that. I would expect like something catch-uppy where you could just like do some open world boss or whatever on repeat. So I was expecting that, and I got something else, which is Plunderstorm, which I was happy about, and I'm still happy about. I would be still playing it sometimes here and there because it's really low commitment. Now, am I going to spam it all day long, every single day? Well, after playing like a whole day of it, I feel like the fatigue can hit very quickly. So I feel like I'm going to play it like with a low dosage, I would say. Like I would be playing 1 hour if I want to, for example. And I would be stopping. Or if I was playing a duo, I would stop whenever my duo would be gone, for example. So overall, I think it's a success. I think it's a good thing that Blizzard actually tries something which has PvP to it. Although, let's be honest, it only has World of Warcraft in its name, and it has nothing to do with retail. So you could say that it has nothing to do with Dragonflight, which has nothing to do with PvP. But again, the idea is there, and if there is engagement and there is, I would say, an audience, it means that they know, look, World of Warcraft has a PvP crowd, so it means that we can actually do something to it to improve it, to cater it, and to improve and to water it. I would like say like a plant and try to grow it until a certain point. So that's why I'm actually very supportive to those like events like these that has PvP. So I'm looking forward to what they're going to do. Again, I have no expectations, so I'm never going to be disappointed. I just say that if they're doing nothing with it, it will become nothing. If they do something with it and they improve on it, and they actually are bold enough to say, look, this is the blueprint, and we're going to add classes at one point where you could like be a mage, warrior, whatever, and you can create that class and you have like a specific amount of spells you have, and then you can just loot gear. That would be maybe interesting instead of looting spells. Again, it depends on philosophy. It could also loot spells, like improvements on spells, but like some people would say that it has their RNG to it. I'm going to say that Battle Royales always has some kind of RNG. You could have like an epic gas mask in Warzone, which has nothing to do with grinding. It's purely like luck. Same for like having a good blueprint or like having a lot of cash at the first drop, for example. All those things are like luck based, and I think you should like take the blueprints from H1Z1 from back in the day instead of like, let's say, something very competitive, and try to be like working onto the fun aspect and then put some competitivity afterwards. But that is my honest opinion about that subject. I might have probably forgot something about the game mode. But if you have any questions or any remarks, please let me know in the comment section below. But also try to be reasonable with criticism. There is critique, like I said, and there is feedback. And if you actually can express yourself to a point where you can actually say, this is not good because this is happening, and I would have preferred it would be like this, it's way better than, let's say that it is bad. Dot on the line, because that has no value, because it might be bad for you but not for someone else. So it's like a pure opinion, but you could also just say like an opinion based on the fact that you would know and something you have known and made it better with just a comment. But anyways, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Again, be sure to stay safe. We will catch you probably very soon in the next video. Have a good day.